Hello and welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Box for Operation Christmas Child. Today's episode we are going back across the Atlantic Ocean to Western Africa to take a look at Sierra Leone. It is the last country that we are looking at in West Africa, and I hope you're ready to learn a little something new. So the name for the country was given by Portuguese explorer Pedro de Sintra, who called the country Sierra Leone, which translates to Lion Mountains, because he was so impressed by what he saw while sailing. It was later misspelt by the British as Sierra Leone. Now, the capital of this country is called Freetown. So Freetown is essentially where the North American slave trade was essentially launched from in 1560. It was subsequently established, Freetown itself though, was subsequently established in 1787 as a place to home rescued and repatriated former slaves. So the flag for Sierra Leone consists of 3 horizontal stripes of green, white, and blue. The green stands for agriculture and the mountains, white for unity and justice, blue for the aspiration to contribute to world peace, especially through Freetown. So Sierra Leone covers 71,740 square kilometers. The country has one of the few remaining tracts of ancient rainforest in West Africa. It is located on the Tuai Island, which translates to Big Island, and it is set apart as a nature reserve. The climate in Sierra Leone is quite tropical, with a dense rainforest in the south and savanna grasslands in the north. Rainy season runs from May to November, and then the remaining months are called the dry. Depending on the time of year, temperatures can range from either 10 degrees Celsius as the low to 38 degrees Celsius as a high. So the population of the country is about 6.8 million. The 2 biggest ethnic groups are the Menda and Temne people, but there are 16 ethnic groups in total. The country itself has had thousands of years of successive waves of invaders and immigrants, which has caused a good amount of diversity in the population. About 2 million people were displaced during the Civil War of the 90s, and Sierra Leone does have the 4th lowest life expectancy rating of 54.3 years. English is the official language. Other popular languages are Menda, Temne, and Creole. Now, Islam is the most popular religion in the nation and is practiced by about 79% of the population. Christianity is practiced by the other 21%, though other local religions do make up a small percentile. So education-wise, Freetown is the home of the first higher learning institution in modern sub-Saharan Africa after the collapse of the University of Timbuktu. It opened in 1827 and is known as Fora Bay College. Schooling is free for the first 6 years and compulsory for the first 9, but it is hard to enforce this due to the lack of facilities. The education system did take a major hit as a result of the Civil War, as many schools were wiped out and people were displaced. Many teachers right now are untrained, and the literacy rate for adults sits at around 43%. In recent years, though, the Netherlands has donated funds to help train more than 3,000 teachers. And overall, improvements have been made, with 76% of students now finishing primary school. Girls face the toughest time as they face early pregnancy, child marriage, gender-based violence, and cultural bias. Now, economy-wise, Sierra Leone is the 8th least developed in the world. The country is rich in mineral resources, but much of the wealth produced from this hardly translates down to the majority of the population. Blood diamonds or conflict diamonds were used to help fund the Civil War and other conflicts in Africa. The country is known as one of the hungriest in the world. Now, as mentioned earlier, the North American slave trade did begin in 1560 from the site of Freetown. By 1670, Bunce Island was a very important slave trade fort and now remains as a monument in remembrance of the trade. In 1808, the British set up a naval unit off the country's coast and a court in Freetown in order to seize and stop slave ships. In 1808, the British did set up a naval unit off the country's coast, as well as a court in Freetown in order to seize and stop slave ships. About 84,000 people were freed this way and settled in the area. In 1961, Sierra Leone did gain its independence from Britain, and unfortunately the nation did suffer from several military coups since then. Starting in 1991, the country fell into a decade-long civil war that didn't end until about 2002. From 2013 to 2016, Sierra Leone suffered from an Ebola outbreak with close to 4,000 deaths. Since 2007, work has been done to try and stabilize the government system and bring justice to various warlords. Now, in regards to the civil war that happened in the 90s, on a more personal note, there is a family from our church that escaped from there as refugees. They're all lovely people, just saying. Now, currently, Sierra Leone does not have any UNESCO sites, but it does have 6 locations on the tentative list for nomination. Now, one of the most famous landmarks in the country is the giant cotton tree. It is in the center of Freetown, and it is said to be several hundred years old and provided shade for the impoverished black settlers in 1787. Now, the 1987 Bounty commercial, Taste of Paradise, was actually shot in Sierra Leone. Rice is an integral part of their diet. If the meal does not have rice, they feel like they haven't actually eaten that day. Palm wine is also a traditional drink, and marriage is highly revered in the country and viewed as a rite of passage to adulthood. If you haven't gotten married, you are still considered a teenager despite your age. Some of the national animals consists of the chimpanzee and the white-throated bee eater. So that wraps up all the facts that I have for you today in regards to Sierra Leone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you've actually been enjoying all these Beyond the Box episodes. I do have one more coming to you soon, and should be dropping right before we have to actually go deliver our shoe boxes, so stay tuned for that. And speaking of dropping off our shoe boxes, collection week is November 14th to the 20th. And you can check out the Samaritan's Purse website for pickup and drop-off locations closest to you. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have yourselves a good day, happy shoeboxing, and stay blessed. Bye!